Next slide. We all know this man, right? Tupac? Tupac. Why I messed around yesterday, I was practicing, I said Tupac. I was nervous, y'all. Like I told you, this is full circle, so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be in front of my people. But yeah, this is what we do when we mess up. Let's think about this poem for a moment and dissect the lyrics. Well, not the lyrics, the phrases, the words. Did you hear about the roses that grew from a crack in concrete? Proving nature's law is wrong, it learned to walk without having feet. Funny it seems, but by keeping its dreams, it learned to breathe fresh air. Long live the rose that grew from concrete when no one else ever cared. The part that really, really resonates for me is the funny it seems, but by keeping its dreams, it learned to breathe fresh air. I'm gonna tell you my story in a little bit, but that to me is the part. That's the part. Because by keeping its dreams, what you all do and the work that you're doing is you provide a space for children to explore. You allow them to explore their imagination. So you're creating a space for dreams. And when they have those dreams, they start to think about what they can be, their future, their possible career even, right? And they hold on to that vision while they have all this other stuff going on in the background. A lot of our children are experiencing chaos at home. They cannot breathe, okay? So that part, it learned to breathe fresh air. They learn to breathe fresh air because of you, because of the work that you're doing and the environment that you create for them, right? So imagine that rose growing, trying to go through concrete. It's stuck under there and it's hard to breathe, but once it's able to get out and it can flourish, it can then breathe. Next slide. The concrete. So I mentioned social determinants of health. I want you to think about the social determinants of health being like the concrete, because that really is what the circumstances are like. It's a very stifling experience when you come from poverty, when you come from unstable housing, having limited access to quality education, the parents of the children having limited access to quality education, the poor nutrition, exposure to violence and substance use disorder, all of which create a harsh environment for growth. But despite these obstacles, with the right support, children can still rise and flourish. So there is hope. There is hope. This is what social determinants of health is when we're talking about poverty, right? Every single aspect of that child's environment, where they come from, all plays a role in their outcomes. And so the work you do is you provide another space or another world for them to enter, so they're not experiencing that so harshly all day long. You provide a break. You provide a respite for them. Roses. So I like to liken this to the child, using this as an example, each part of that rose, the stem. The stem is the child's potential and resilience, providing the foundation and strength needed to rise above challenges. The petals. The petals are the child's growth, beauty, and unique qualities that can flourish when nurtured and supported. The thorns. You've got thorns. We got thorns. The struggles and difficulties the child may have faced, often hidden but very real, reminds us to handle with care and understanding. My story. ACEs. How many of us are familiar with ACEs? Adverse childhood experiences, great. How many of us are not familiar? This is a new term to us. Okay, great. So ACEs can lead to lifelong health challenges, highlighting the importance of early support. Really what it is a scale from 1 to 10. Each ACE represents a traumatic experience or some sort of abuse experience that a child experiences, and these things can alter and shape their world and their perception of the world, and has an impact on their physical health and mental health. So on a scale from 1 to 10, majority of the world, about 67% of us, the population, has at least one ACE, can identify one ACE, no matter what background you come from, no matter what your socioeconomic status is. A good amount of the population also has at least 4 ACEs, which is considered pretty high, right? Many children face ACEs, but with nurturing from their educational village, which is you all, they can greatly benefit and thrive. By creating safe environments, you help mitigate ACEs effects and build resilience. So this is what's said about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. Childhood trauma is at the root of many social and personal issues in our society. Studies from the US, UK, and elsewhere show clearly that ACEs can significantly raise the likelihood of over 80% of negative life outcomes, including suicide attempts, alcoholism, drug addiction, criminality, mental health issues, heart disease, liver disease, obesity, and many more. So this is an infographic that pretty much touches on what I just mentioned. At least one, basically 67% of this room, at least you've experienced one ACE. Those of you who are familiar with ACEs, have you done your own ACEs assessment? You know where you're at, right? A lot of us have lived experience. That's why we're in this work. We want to be able to be the change because we've experienced some tough stuff, right? Some other things to be said about ACEs. The different forms of abuse. There's emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect. And what comes with neglect, emotional neglect, physical neglect. Some household challenges like domestic violence, substance abuse, mental health issues, parental separation and divorce, and having an incarcerated parent. All of these things affect the child's health. If you have 4 or more ACEs, your levels are 3 times of that for smoking and having lung disease. You're 3 times more likely to have that. 11 times more likely to be susceptible to using drugs intravenously, so heroin and things like that. 4 times more likely to begin intercourse by the age of 15. 14 times the number of suicide attempts. 4.5 more times likely to develop depression. 2 times likely to develop liver disease. So this is serious stuff, right? ACEs is serious stuff. These are all traumatic events that impact our children. Next slide. My score is 9. My score is 9 out of 10. Pretty high up there. Pretty high up there, but I made it, right? Thanks to Head Start. So my world, I'm first generation on my mother's side. She came here from France. My grandparents are from Europe, so my father is Polish, grandmother is French speaking. But there were a lot of struggles when they came here. My grandparents are deaf. My grandfather was completely deaf. Grandmother is partially deaf. So you can imagine the isolation. There's a lot of isolation. And there were a lot of issues, but I'll mention that in the next slide. I was trilingual, right? Am trilingual. Speak French, do a little sign language. I'm not the greatest at it, so don't ask me to sign. But I can do a little something. And of course, English. I had a rich cultural heritage on both sides of my family, on my African American side and on my mother's side, right? So we had a lot of food, we share family stories. There's, some traditions that we carry along in our family. A lot of get-togethers, a lot of cookouts and things like that. I grew up drinking coffee at a pretty young age. I know you're not supposed to, but it's a French thing. And there was a lot of affection and love in my house. A lot of affection and love, a lot of food. It was a home. It was a home to me. Though it was unstable, it was a home. I had a second mother, which was my father's longtime girlfriend. She was like a mother to me. All right, so I spent a lot of time going back and forth to her home and our home. Unfortunately, she passed recently, but I had a beautiful memory of her the other day when we all went to the grocery store, and they would see my sister and I, who share the same father, along with her 4 other kids who are my half brothers and sisters, and we would go in the grocery store, and people would be looking at us like, with her, like, are those your kids? And she would be like, my kids, those are my kids. So she claimed us, which was a beautiful thing. So I call her my second mom. And then family members who encouraged my talents. We had fun, we had joy, we had laughter, we had books, we had learning materials. Any of us remember Encyclopedia Britannica, the whole series? Yeah, the brown series, the blue, the red, right? I used to open up those books constantly and look at the dinosaurs and read about the dinosaurs. That was just my thing. Toys, we had toys, right? People would give us toys. We had like hand-me-down toys from the neighborhood. We were not picky, okay? Dolls and trucks. And clothes, imagination, and creativity, most importantly. We had all of that stuff, all of that positive stuff. But this was also my world. My mother was on and off state assistance. She was, when she did have jobs, they were low-income jobs, so we lived in poverty. We had public assistance. My father was in and out of incarceration for drug trafficking and drug using. There was violence, a lot of violence in the home and outside of the home. There was substance use disorder, various substances, so crack, cocaine, alcohol, there was a lot of that. There were mental health issues, some neglect, safety concerns in my neighborhood, chronic crime in the neighborhood, and inconsistency and instability. So there's a lot of scrambling around to try to, rob Peter to pay Paul. It was like a bucket with a hole in it. It was constantly something. Now, though I wasn't paying bills, obviously I was a little one, I felt that energy of the stress. Transportation issues, that was always a thing. The car always breaking down, right? And childhood obesity, I did experience that. By the time I reached age 12, I was about 200 pounds. So yeah, it was a big part of my life, big challenge, something I try to keep under control even today. And a lot of mixed messages in the religion that we belong to as well. So a lot of do as I say, but not as I do kind of stuff. So a little bit about Hartford during that time where I grew up in 1988. There was an article that came out in the New York Times, "A drug trade rises in Hartford, so does violent crime." Hartford, which is 18 square miles and has a population of 138,000, is ranked 4th among the United States cities of 100,000 people or more in violent crimes per capita. So we were number 4 for the most violent crimes in the United States. So this was a very, very tough and rough neighborhood. This was the time of the war on drugs, right? So remember Nancy Reagan, the war on drugs. Our neighborhood was filled with crack cocaine and people selling crack cocaine. And it was very dangerous to even step outside. I was in Head Start, 1988 to 1989. This is actually a picture of me with a little chalkboard that they had me write on it. It says Martin Luther King School, Hartford. I was in group 106. I'm not sure about the group numbers, but I was part of 106, I guess, in pre-K and school readiness. I spelled readiness wrong. I forgot the A. But you see me behind the little chalkboard holding that up. Next slide. This is Martin Luther King School. This is a school I walked up to every morning with my grandma. I have very fond memories of the school. I loved the school. The safety, I can still smell it. I can still smell it. I have a lot of great memories from that program. Next slide. So my grandmother, I mentioned to you, she walked me every day to that school, and I also mentioned that there was a lot of crime in my neighborhood. It was very dangerous to step out. The crime was so bad that one of the things, and every hood has its dynamics, as you know. My father was very well respected, feared, and recognized in our neighborhood. You don't touch any of his family or any of his people, right? So what my father did, because my grandmother was deaf, remember I mentioned she's deaf, he drove around the entire neighborhood. He would drive around the neighborhood with her in the passenger seat so people would see him with her. And then he would walk up and down the blocks with her, walk her in and out of all the stores, all the corner stores, so people would see him with her. It was a form of protection, okay? So now when I would step out with her to go to the school, nobody would touch us because they know, oh, that's Donnie Rose's daughter, that's her grandmother, leave them alone. So I mentioned Rose, right? That's his last name, so that's kind of goes along with the theme of my presentation. Martin Luther King School, Head Start and Martin Luther King School. It was such a tight program, such a good program that Head Start had there that I even remember the routine in the morning. We had Rice Krispie treats, we had juice, and then we would sit on the carpet, we would watch Sesame Street, we would sit in a row and listen to this song about orange juice, and they would give us these sliced oranges and we'd eat the oranges while we sing the song about the orange juice. And then we would hold hands and rock side to side and sing We Shall Overcome. All right, so that was our routine. I remember that to this day. This is why consistency is important. Those moments were very safe, very wholesome, right? And they cemented my day. Like I knew that was gonna happen. That was something that I can expect and I can look forward to. So it was a beautiful experience. This program was so tight and so well organized. They also had like a reading period and a writing period, so we'd practice our letters and we would read and the teachers would read to us, that I really thrived in it. So I went into kindergarten knowing how to recognize words and knowing how to read and write, like basic level, right? During the summer, I wrote a book called Tommy Joins the Circus. I remember the title to this day. And I illustrated the pictures for that book. When I came into kindergarten, the teacher was so excited. I just remember the look on her face. She was like, "You did this?" I was like, "Yeah." And she said, "Okay, we gotta do something, So she got the teacher's aide involved. And they mounted this book on really nice paper. They laminated it. They put little binder clips on it. They just made it a big deal. They were so excited about this book. And I didn't know how they were going to react. I didn't know if they were going to be like, "Oh yeah, that's cute, that's nice," because I didn't know this teacher yet. But for her to be that excited about it, it did something to me. It just made me feel so good. She went to the principal. She said, "Oh, we got to get her on stage. We got to get her reading that book." So she put me up on stage on a podium just like this. And I had this big book, which was so nicely put together with my pictures, with my words. And I read that story to the entire school in the school auditorium. It was a K-5 school at the time. All right, so there were big kids in the back. So it was a tremendous experience for me as a kid. So after that, I thought to myself, I said, "That's me. Oh, I need that all the time. That needs to be my life. I love this. This is who I am." It solidified my identity in the arts really, really early. And I won an award. So the trophy that they gave me looked a lot like this. It was like a little one that my hands can hold, but it looked a lot like that. Some key takeaways from this story is that the staff did more than their job. They did so much more than their job, right? Yeah, they could go to work, they go through the routine, and then they can collect their check, but no one's paying this woman to make her eyes that big and to give me a hug and to say, "Oh my goodness," no one's paying her to do that, but she did. And it made such an impression on me. Also, the teacher's aide being right behind her saying, "Oh yeah, girl, that's good," and being excited for me. No one's paying them to do that, but they did it. And it made such a huge impression. The school provided stability and support amidst the turmoil of my environment, acting as a consistent safe space. The kindergarten teacher and the teacher's aide recognized my potential and nurtured it, offering emotional encouragement beyond the academics. Okay? And the positive educational experience instilled hope and confidence, helping me to envision a future beyond my immediate home environment and struggles. Being a safe person helps the children succeed. I cannot emphasize this enough because they may not have enough safe people at home. Being a safe person, you being that safe person, you being that person that they can go to and rely on, and they're not going to have a judgmental face look at them. They're not going to have somebody being negative with them is key. Being trustworthy and reliable, being consistent, being dependable and respectful, being emotionally supportive. A safe person, they offer empathy and validation, making the children feel seen. They made me feel seen. I wasn't just in the sea of kids, right? They pointed me out. They said, girl, that is awesome, right? And they were non-judgmental and encouraging. So here's how I turned out. I had a resilient start, right? As you can see from my story. I overcame a difficult childhood in Hartford, Connecticut, to build a career dedicated to community advocacy and support. So yes, I've worked in every aspect of human services, but I bring something a little more, just like those teachers did. Every job that I've had, the people that I worked with, I would see myself in those people. And so I'll give them a little bit extra love, just give them a little bit more. And so I've been, using a trauma-informed approach before it became a buzzword, right? That was my thing. Like, we have to really treat people as people and not look at them as numbers and outcomes. I won an award for writing a play on the African American experience back in 2019. I write plays, I do theater, I'm involved in film. Became an entrepreneur. I have a stable home now. I do not do drugs. I'm sober, drug-free. I did not pick up a lot of the things that I was born into. I didn't pick that up. I have healthy relationships. I'm in therapy, right? I recognize that just because I had those thorns back then doesn't mean they just go away. I'm still a rose, right? They're still on me. And so I still need to talk to someone and get some things out and work through issues. I contribute to society in various ways. So I'm gonna give you a little piece of my world, give you a little taste. I'm gonna show you a trailer for the film Silence on the Streets that Ashley mentioned earlier, that's touring around the nation and is also touring around Delaware. Just to give you a little insight. Mm-hmm.
It's worse. It's like jumping from the pond to the fire.
In 2021, 93% of deaths caused by overdose involved in opioid.
There's such a high level of people that are mixing it with stuff that, food more than anything.
Drug overdose death rates are increasing at an alarming rate among Black and brown populations compared to the non-Hispanic white population.
People are dying, in particular for African Americans and Latinx. We're dying at very high rates due to the overdose crisis.
The thing that I know is most about fentanyl is not people actually look for fentanyl. This is the game change only people do. That's the game change. Straight up, just change.
I agree with Nina Simone when she said, an artist's duty as far as I'm concerned is to reflect the times. As a playwright, I have found myself curious about what was happening in my community around 2019. I kept seeing posts on Facebook with R.I.P., rest in peace of them. These were young people of color from New England, Connecticut who were dying from illicit opioids. Many of the comments in the post referred to fentanyl as the killer. So I did some research and wrote and produced a play along with the support of Clifford Beer's clinic as an outreach effort.
I reached out to the playwright, and we started discussions about how we could come up with a new film that really addressed a lot of the issues that the playwright had brought up in Matthew Rising, and create something that could be used as a resource in community settings, at schools, to really hit on those issues and really put a spotlight on some of the struggles that the Black and brown communities have. We're talking about mental health and trauma and poverty and addiction. And that's really, the genesis of this documentary.
We spoke with several individuals in Connecticut to gain deeper insight into some of the factors that led us here today. We went to New Haven, London, Norwich, Meriden, and Hartford to speak with people with lived experience, as well as New Haven young doctors, professors, mental health providers, recovery coaches, city officials, and young adults who are surrounded by this crisis on a daily basis. As we started the project, I realized we needed to dial things back. We needed to go back to a time familiar to me, when so many of our families were impacted by violence, illegal substances, and incarceration. We needed to break the silence on the streets.
All right. So that was the trailer for Silence on the Streets. And like I mentioned, it's a documentary that is going around now, and I have some information at the end for when it will be shown, again, here in Delaware. So education plays a major role, right? I really credit my early childhood and my early childhood education experience to who I am today. I don't think I would be as passionate about this work if it wasn't for that. Education is more than just going to school and getting good grades and getting a job, right? Like it's another world that the child is entering. It's another world where the child can have space to grow, to think, to make decisions, to socialize, and just to work with people who they can trust. It's a transformative power. It equips children with the tools needed for personal growth, self-efficacy, and resilience. And we know this, right? We've learned this in school, we've seen this, but I just want to just drive home the point that it's deep, right? Education is deep. It's not just a simple, learn this stuff and go to work. So by creating a nurturing and supportive environment, educators help children build resilience and achieve long-term success, making a profound difference in their lives. I mentioned that I saw a lot of similar issues in Delaware compared to my experience in Hartford, and some of those issues had to do with housing barriers. We have a housing crisis down here in Delaware. It is tough. Yeah, and some of us may have experienced that ourselves trying to find housing. Oh my goodness, COVID, that was crazy. Language barriers, that's a major issue here in Delaware. We experienced that as well in Connecticut. And then just systemic barriers. Filling out an application for food stamps is mental gymnastics. Like what? Like I worked with a student and she just needed some help, with food stamps. I was like, do you have everything you need? And she's like, yeah, I don't have food stamps yet. And I was like, okay, well, when are you gonna get them? Well, I don't know, because I don't know how to read the application. Okay, let's work together on reading the application. Well, I'm looking at it and I'm like, wait a minute, these are trick questions. Like, what's going on here? So I spent about half a day working with her to fill out this application properly. And thankfully she got the food stamps. But it's just such mental gymnastics and the logistics, the day-to-day that people have to go through, even just to get to places. The transportation issues are really tough. The bus is not on time, right? Like these things really impact the children because their parents are going through these issues. So what tools do you have to help them grow? I love analogies and metaphors, as you can see. So I've identified some tools that you already possess that can really help children to grow. So like a watering can, you can water these flowers, water these roses. By watering them, you provide essential support and encouragement, helping children to thrive despite their challenging environments. Just encouragement, being positive, being warm, being happy with them, right? Celebrating the small stuff. Gardening gloves. So just as gardening gloves protect hands from the harsh conditions, you create a safe and supportive environment where children feel secure and valued, right? Like a spade, like the little shovel. It helps prepare the soil, so you lay the groundwork. You create an environment for the child's success by addressing their unique needs and fostering their growth. You have the power to create a nurturing and safe environment. the pruning shears, the scissors, the little clippers. You help children refine their strengths and overcome challenges by allowing them to flourish despite adversity. You can also protect them by cutting away possible threats while they're in your care. Here are some key words for a safe environment that I hope you'll take away. So trust, structure, consistency, support, communication, safety, encouragement, stability, empowerment, and the biggest one, hope. Hope, right? Recognize the thorns. Recognize the thorns they experience and handle them with care. So some of these thorns that I've identified would be like inconsistent attendance. You ever work with some families and you're not seeing the children as often, right? That impacts them too. They want to be there too. They want to see you, right? So that impacts them. Behavioral challenges, difficulty engaging, maybe with the other students or with you, or just in general. Signs of anxiety. My tummy hurts. I got a tummy ache. That's anxiety, right? Low self-esteem, spacing out. These are all things that I experienced. I experienced these. I remember this. I remember the teacher saying, "You okay? You okay?" Because I would be spacing out. So these are thorns. Little things make a big difference. Smiling at them intentionally, all right? Make it personal. Like, I see you, all right? Smiling at them. Offering lots of praise, even for the little things. Be fair. That's a big one. I don't know about you, but as an adult, if you're not fair with me, we got a problem, right? we got a problem. So kids feel the same way, even that much more. Acknowledge when you make mistakes, vocally. I'm so sorry. I apologize, my bad, right? It's okay to make mistakes as an adult and apologize. Compliment the children. Remember things about them and discuss it with them. That shows you remember them. That makes them feel seen. That makes them feel good. And this is a big one, starting and ending the day on a positive note. Okay, that right there really makes a good and positive experience with them, with you. So some key takeaways, your role matters, right? So like gardeners, your role is vital to helping individuals thrive despite challenges. Being a safe adult helps the child's overall growth. Power of recognition and praise, celebrate achievements and efforts, as recognition can inspire and affirm growth. The impact of supportive adults is so important. Understanding the profound impact supportive adults have. It's akin to nurturing roses growing through concrete, helping individuals overcome obstacles and reach their full potential. So that is my presentation, and I have left room for Q&A, and then I will share with you some information about upcoming screenings and things like that. So does anybody have any questions or thoughts? There's, I believe, a mic in the back. You were all given, I came bearing gifts. You were all given a little rose as a reminder that, you know, some of the children that you have in your classrooms are roses growing through concrete. Yeah, we have a question here. Skip silence.
Just a comment, and what you said earlier, I like what you said that the staff do more than their job. Because I'm a school bus driver, but I work for the small center, and as we know, none of us can take their child to come in screamators,
Right.
but they do their job. Even if they did not get paid for that. So what you said, it touched us. I'm not just video fans. We can talk to all experts that we do our job and we do our best ability. One, as I said, the staff more than their job. So we appreciate this and that perhaps. It makes us really appreciate that, know that we do our job to our best ability. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for the work you do. School bus drivers, oh my goodness. That is amazing work. Very important work. Any other thoughts or questions? We have a hand here.
kids, have experience walking to school, or in those essentially housing where
Yep.
there's high volume, vulnerable areas, different areas.
Yeah.
We've been experiencing a lot the past couple of years. So to know that the impact of it certainly for you, and that there's still a chance for these, children that we serve is a really good feeling.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, are we okay on time, Miss Clara? We're good? Okay, yay. Okay, if there are no other thoughts or questions, I have two things that I want to share with you before I leave today. Well, a few things. There's a QR code up here. It's a survey of this presentation. I would like to be able to do this presentation in other places, and so I would love your feedback. Any feedback is helpful for me. And I've also shared this slide with Ms. Clara, so we can share that with you if you'd like it. And yeah, okay. So we're on to the slide before. Oh, still getting it, okay.
Can you ask someone? Can you ask someone?
Okay. We good for me to move on to the next slide? Okay. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, so to see the full film Silence on the Streets, there's this free and open to the public event at University of Delaware. It's in partnership with the Behavioral Health Consortium, ran by the Lieutenant Governor's Office, Bethany Long. We have done a tour around Delaware. We've conducted unity dinners. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or heard of that, but basically we had folks sit around the table and watch the film and then talk about substance use in their communities and how it's impacting their communities. So we got data from the streets so that we can discuss that at this event, because that's so important. We're always hearing data, and we know that there's a lot of research that's done, but the most important data, I think, comes from the people who are experiencing the issues. And so we now have well-rounded data. So we don't just have numbers, we've got anecdotal data. So I will be on the panel along with Philip Rutherford, Daryl Wolfe Chambers, and Anthony Jackson, who also has lived experience incarceration and substance use. So this is happening September 12th, 2 to 5:30 p.m. And the link, the QR code is there, and the link is there, and we can share that with you as well via email, or you can see me after and get the information. And next slide. My day job, my jobby job, I work for a mental health association in Delaware, which I love. It's a great place, really warm people. We offer a variety of services, free services. So there are virtual wellness groups if ever you wanted to hop on and have a group to talk to or talk through some issues. A group very specific for anxiety and depression, LGBTQ+, people of color group, and men's wellness group. So there's several offerings if you go on the website. We also have peer education services, which that's what I do. I'm a peer educator. So it's basically like a train-the-trainer kind of a program. So I work with people who've already gone through recovery who want to work with people who are in recovery. So I help them get certified so they can, it's each one teach one kind of a thing. And it's so impactful. People recover when they can work with someone who's walked a mile in their shoes. So that's really what it's all about. And so if you know someone who's interested in that, by all means, send them our way. We're the only education entity in Delaware for peer certification, so they can go to us for that. And I think that's it. And then, yeah, this is my website, Vintage Soul Productions, if you want to check that out. And again, that's the survey code, and that's me, and that's my time. So thank you all for having me. One more thing, I want to personally thank Ms. Clara Martinez for having me. I greatly appreciate it, and thank Thank you again.
Resilience, and to hear that she remembers the teacher that gave her some type of strength. I hope that resonated in you. Because you can always look back and say, I remember a teacher who looked at me and knew that I was going to be something. And you can remember that teacher who said, she ain't going to be nothing. Right. And which teacher will you be to those children? Oh, such a powerful story. And y'all know I like music, but while we was talking about roses, I want y'all to look up Aretha Franklin, A Rose is Still a Rose. A rose is still a rose. Y'all know I can't sing, but listen to those lyrics because it's impactful. It will impact you. It will give you more concrete of what Miss Sharece was talking about. Coming through that concrete, knowing those thorns still exist, making sure you understand you are still a rose, okay? And another one, y'all know my last name is Hood for a reason. I like Wu-Tang. Ghostface Killer has a song called All I Got Is You. All I Got Is You talks about lots of things that we went through in the 90s and what our babies are still going through right here. Back when we was growing up, yes, it was the crack cocaine epidemic, but this opioid is something different. This opioid is something different, and I'm pretty sure if we was really being vulnerable, a lot of us would have our hands up if we said that we today know somebody in our family and our friends, somebody who has been affected. So think about those babies, and one thing that she said was, she in therapy. Ain't nothing wrong with it. We still healing from our trauma. And there's nothing wrong with it. So I hope that you guys really listen to that. I definitely want y'all to check out the film. I think that's a great show. Please make sure that you do the survey. I am gonna let you guys get your break.